Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, join me as we gather together to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And it is Friday, and Fridays, of course, I fly solo. I like to give everybody the day off on Friday, and it's just you and me talking about our favorite things in the world. A lot of things we're going to talk about here today. Toy Story. I'm going to give you my Toy Story 4 review. Child's Play. Going to give you my Child's Play review. Everybody's talking about these mind-altering, incredibly twisty, shocking post-credit scenes in Spider-Man 2. We're going to speculate about what those could possibly be. Hey, listen, if Endgame doesn't catch Avatar, can anything in the next 5 years catch it? That and a few things more. But before we get into all that, let's go right off the top with this. One of the biggest items in the news cycle the last number of weeks has been, of course, Robert Pattinson being cast as Batman. Now, it's been a really good stretch for Pattinson lately. He was cast as one of the leads in the upcoming Christopher Nolan film. That's huge. He gets cast as the new Batman, getting everybody talking. That's huge. But there are still some people out there, to some degree, understandably so, that are still a little apprehensive about Robert Pattinson because, let's face it, a lot of the work that Robert Pattinson has done in the last 7-8 years outside of Twilight has been really smaller indie-style films. Now, he's done a bunch of them, and he's been magnificent in all of them, and the people who have seen them, including all the critics and everything, adore his work in these things, but there's a lot of people who haven't seen that stuff, and when they think of Robert Pattinson, to some degree, understandably, all they think about him is as the kid in Twilight, and like, Twilight Boy is going to be Batman? You know, that sort of thing. Well, if you needed another vote of confidence, Academy Award winning and multi-time nominated director Danny Boyle, who of course did like 28 Days Later, 127 Hours, Slumdog Millionaire, Train Spotting, on and on and on and on. And he was directing the newest Bond film. He and his writing partner were working on the newest Bond film. They were going to do Bond, and then they and the producers just had creative differences and they departed the film. But at any rate, if you needed another vote of confidence for Robert Pattinson, Academy Award-winning director who was working on Bond, Danny Boyle, was recently being interviewed, and he was talking about another film, but he was asked about Bond, and he said, you know what? I would take Robert Pattinson as the next Bond. I would take Robert Pattinson as the next Bond. He said, you know, I was just watching one of his latest films, High Life, which if you haven't seen it, you need to watch it. I was just watching one of his latest films, High Life, and this guy is Bond. Now, somebody asked him, but maybe is he a little bit too young to play Bond? He goes, what, are you crazy? He's 33 years old. He's not too young to play Bond. This is a perfect age for an actor to start playing Bond. So if you're one of these people who's like, you want to be optimistic about, you know, the new Batman film, and you want to be optimistic about Robert Pattinson being cast in the role, but you just haven't seen anything else, then here's another little piece of ammo for you. Not only does Christopher Nolan love this guy and cast him as one of the leads in his movie, not only has Matt Reeves shown confidence and Warner Brothers shown confidence in this guy by making him the new Batman, now Danny Boyle himself is saying this guy's so good he could be Bond. He could be Bond. Now, that would be quite a trifecta for Robert Pattinson, right? I'm Edward Cullen, one of the most successful franchises of all time. I'm Batman, and I'm James Bond. That would be like a cool trifecta for the dude. But anyway, I actually think, I never thought of Robert Pattinson as Bond, but now that I think about it, you know, he'd probably make a pretty good one. Not my first choice, obviously, but he would probably make a pretty good Bond. All right. Anyway, with that down and out of the way, let's move on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple to see you guys come up with them by going to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. When you get to that page, you're going to see a form. Fill it out and hit submit with your topic or question, and maybe, just maybe, you might see it featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get to our first main topic today. And our first main topic today comes to us from Santiago Rousselot Vespa, who writes, "Hi, John. In a few minutes, I'm leaving to see Toy Story 4, and I know you're going to go see it today as well." This was obviously a message that came in yesterday. "So by the time the show starts, you will have seen it already. How was it? Thanks." All right, thanks a lot for the message, Santiago. And yes, last night I finally went out to see Toy Story 4. I couldn't make the press screenings. I hardly ever go to press screenings anymore, but this is one I probably would have gone to had I been available, but I wasn't. So anyway, last night I go out to check it out. Now, I've been hearing a lot of things about Toy Story 4. That it's the funniest of all the Toy Stories. A bunch of people saying it's the most emotional of all the Toy Stories. A bunch of people saying this is the best of the Toy Story films. All right, let me give you a couple conclusions here. Right off the bat, I do not think, personally, that Toy Story 4 is the best of the Toy Story movies. Of course, understanding that the 3 other Toy Story movies are 100% critic rating, 100% critic rating, and 98% critic rating. So for me to say it's not the best of the Toys, I still give that crown personally. I still give the crown of the best Toy Story film personally to Toy Story 3. I still think that is probably the best of the franchise so far. But I will tell you what, I believe this is the funniest of the Toy Story movies. I believe it is the deepest of the Toy Story movies. I believe it is a better conclusion to the Toy Story franchise than even Toy Story 3 was, even though I think overall Toy Story 3 is the better movie. I think this is a better conclusion to the Toy Story franchise. I didn't find it quite as emotional as Toy Story 3, because Toy Story, there's some powerful emotion. And believe you me, there was some wet eyes in the audience last night watching Toy Story, including the woman sitting beside me in the theater, John Campea. I turned over to look at her near the end of the film, and she says, tissues in her face, and blah, blah. Lots of tears. But overall, I still thought the Toy Story 3 had a little bit better. Look, let's just talk about this film. The humor in it right off the bat is great. And the humor is great on just about every level that the movie operates on. It's great from our main characters. Woody is very funny in it. Buzz is very funny in it. I got to tell you, this is a Woody movie, not a Woody and Buzz movie. Buzz is a big presence in the film, but he is definitely a secondary character in this movie as opposed to some of the other Toy Stories. Buzz is a secondary character, but Buzz and Woody both very funny. The assorted toys, very funny. The new characters are incredibly hilarious. Whether you're talking about Forky, which, by the way, I'm very pleased, ladies and gentlemen, to be joined here today by one of the stars of Toy Story, Mr. Forky. Hey, John. Hello, Mr. Forky. Thank you for being here. No problem. You're the best. Oh, thank you so much. And you're so handsome. I am. Why, thank you so much, Forky. Anyway, so the Forky character you've probably been seeing in a lot of the trailers, or a lot of the reviews, I should say, are saying, oh my God, Forky's a gem, Forky's hilarious, and all that kind of stuff. For such an odd-looking character, and maybe you might think like a little bit of a throwaway character, you might think, really? Okay, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true that he'd be that. He's that funny. The character is absolutely hilarious, and he brings up a lot of like deeper philosophical questions, a lot of existential questions, while being absolutely ridiculous and hilarious. So, yes, anyway, Forky's great. Another new character is, of course, Kaboom, being voiced by Keanu Reeves. Everything you thought he would be. Everything you thought that Kaboom would be, he is. He's funny, he's hilarious. Obviously, I liked him a lot because he's very, very Canadian. So much so that when characters tell him, yes, you can, they say, yes, you Canadian. I mean, anyway, so as a Canadian, I was clearly digging that very much. And so that was funny. The stuff with the live action humans was funny. There is a really, probably the best villain out of all the Toy Story series. Probably the best villain, most well-rounded, most dimensional villain. And Toy Story's had some great antagonists in their series. I think this doll, this Gabby doll that's in this movie is the best one yet. And, you know, even plays a part in the conclusion of the film, which most antagonists do, but I'm not going to give much away. It's incredibly great on that level. If there was anything I would say that is a weakness of Toy Story 4, it would be this. There are none. There are no weaknesses. That's not to say this is a perfect movie. Some of the things it does well, it could have done better, I suppose. But as I sat back and watched this film, and I'm always looking for weaknesses even in the movies that I love, and I'm honestly sitting there, I'm like, I don't see any discernible weaknesses here. It's not the strongest of the franchise, but I see no discernible weaknesses. The human characters are good. The original characters are good. The new characters are good. The story is great. The depth is great. The laughs are there. It's got emotion and it's got heart. honestly, I didn't see much about it to complain about, even if there's some things I'm not going to up and down and cheer. Now, the Key and Peele characters as well. Everybody fell in love with Ducky and Bunny, which we see in the top there of the corner, the Key and Peele voice characters that we saw in a number of special spots and little shorts and trailers and such. They deliver. I might have laughed more, and there's a lot to laugh at in this movie, but I might have laughed more at the Key and Peele stuff than any other stuff in the movie. And again, at the end, when it all comes down to it at the end, it's an incredibly satisfying, heartfelt, emotional, funny, heartbreaking, all of it wrapped into one. It's a great movie. Best of the Toy Story franchise. There are some people that will think so, and I can understand why. For me, no, it's not the best of the franchise, but a wonderful movie. An absolutely wonderful movie that I believe you will enjoy on several different levels. From deeper meaning, to humor, to heart, emotion. It delivers it. And I'm not going to lie, I got choked up a little bit a couple times in the movie myself in the midst of laughing hysterically. So anyway, guys, what do you think about Toy Story 4? Have you had a chance to go out and see it yet? If so, jump down in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. And just so you guys know, this Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we are going to do a Toy Story 4 open spoiler discussion. So if you guys do see Toy Story this weekend and you want to talk about it, Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we are going to be doing an open Toy Story 4 spoiler discussion. Make sure you guys mark that into your calendars, and we will see you there. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 2. And the second main topic today comes to us from Subhasish Nayak, who writes, "Hey John, the Child's Play reviews are out and it's looking like it turned out to be way better than what we were expecting, 72% on Rotten Tomatoes. I was planning on going to see it tonight, but canceled all my plans after seeing that they were lifting the review embargo so late. Do you think this may cost them lots of viewers like me?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And you know what? Double checking it out right now. If I go over to Child's Play 2019 Rotten Tomatoes. At one point last night, it was at like 72%. Today, a few hours later, it has, as of right now, dropped down. It's dropped 10%. It's dropped down to 62%, which is still way better than what I was expecting. I mean, yeah, it's dropped 10% overnight, but it's sitting at 62% right now, which is far better than what I was expecting. Now, granted, even the people who are liking, as I'm reading through the reviews, even the people who are saying, yeah, this was enjoyable, they're not saying they loved it. So keep that in mind. So last night, I decided to go and see Chucky because I was like you. I said, I'm not going to go see this movie. If the studio's not going to let the reviews come out and they're hiding it and they're going to play dirty with the audience like that, if they don't believe in the film, I'm not going to believe in the film and I'm not going to go see it, even though I already had tickets for it. Then I saw it come out to like 69, 70%. And I'm like, well, crap. I guess I should go see it. So I went to go see it. What did I think of Child's Play 2019? Let me put it this way. It is a truly awful movie. It is a truly awful movie that admittedly has some truly hilarious moments. Some absolutely hilarious moments, most of which brought to us by Mark Hamill doing the voice of Chucky. He did a fantastic job as Chucky. Now, this is a very different, as you guys could already tell from the trailers, this is a very different Child's Play than the original one. This is not a mass murderer who transfers his consciousness into the body of a doll through voodoo witchcraft and is sacrificing kids and murder and blah, 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 and Jennifer Tilly is not going to come in as bride. This is a very, very different movie that they were probably tempted at some point not to call it Child's Play. They were probably tempted at some point to call it something different because it is very different. This is a piece of AI robot that something goes a little bit wrong. I won't give away what goes wrong. Something a little bit wrong goes wrong with this programming, and he turns out to be a psychotic killing machine as a result. Not a lot of stuff that we haven't seen before. This is your stereotypical and classic, if you want to use a better word, classic kind of tale of AI gone wrong, which we've seen in many other movies, granted, but it's used pretty cleverly. And I think putting the idea of that together with the motif of what Child's Play classically was, I think it was actually a pretty creative idea, which is why I've liked the trailer so far. But aside from some really funny moments, including Paperboy from, I can't remember the actor's name, Paperboy from Atlanta, who's probably the highlight of the movie other than Mark Hamill, doing the voice of Chucky. He was really funny in it. This is a very bad movie. I mean, it is a very bad movie. And I mentioned this on my Twitter last night as I was walking home. I'm walking out of the theater. Anne watched Toy Story with me. She then went home. I stuck around and watched Child's Play after that. So I'm walking out of the theater after it was done, and there are these two women walking in front of me. They weren't talking to me, but they're walking in front of me. And I put this up on my social media for those of you who follow me on social media. And the one girl said to the other, "That was so bad, it triggered my period." To which I couldn't help myself but laugh out loud, which caused a very awkward moment because it made it look like I was eavesdropping. I wasn't meaning to eavesdrop. They turned around and looked at me. I'm like, "I'm sorry," which I thought was pretty hilarious. But you know how sometimes there are these movies, guys, that you see and you like it, but you go, "But I could see why somebody else wouldn't like it." Like there are plenty of movies I like that I go, "Yeah, but I could see why other people maybe wouldn't like it." This is kind of the opposite for me. To me, this is a really terrible movie that had enough laughs in it, because there are some really good laughs, that has enough laughs in it that has me sitting back and going, I don't like this movie. It's pretty awful, but I can see why there are going to be people who walk out of it having enjoyed themselves overall, because there are some really good laughs. The story is dumb. Tons of logic problems. So much of this movie makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And I'm talking about even within the logic rules that this movie universe sets up, it still isn't consistent with itself. Aubrey Plaza, who I love Aubrey Plaza, absolutely sleepwalks through this movie. She has kind of one shining moment near the end of the film, but I won't give away what that is at this point. Even though Mark Hamill's Chucky says a lot of really funny things, a lot of the times there's just no decent dialogue for it. Again, you'd have to see it to understand what I mean. The main kid who plays Andy, pretty strong. Because I'm not big on kid actors. This kid was actually pretty strong, so there's that. It's gory. It absolutely goes for that. It is gory. Some very, very funny moments. There are redeemable things about this movie. But overall, it's pretty awful. It's pretty awful, but it's a pretty awful movie you might get a kick out of. I don't know. Did some of you guys run out to see Child's Play last night? If so, I'd be curious. What did you think about Child's Play? How does what I'm saying measure up to what your experience was? Jump down in the comments section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I think there are going to be a lot of very differing opinions on this movie. I wish I liked it more because Mark Hamill, the voice of Chucky, is so great. And there are some really, really funny moments, and not just one or two. There are a number of really funny moments in the movie. Unfortunately, not enough for me to overcome just how truly awful the rest of the movie is. But I don't know. I still think some of you guys are going to get a real kick out of it. Let me know what you guys think once you have a chance to see it. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today comes to us from Edward, who writes, "Hi, John. I know you already talked about the reactions from Far From Home and how some people are calling it a masterpiece of a movie, but some people have also said that there are 2 post-credit scenes and how they think it's the 2 best and most surprising post-credit scenes ever seen, and some huge plot twists in the movie. So I was wondering, from all these reactions, what do you think the credit scenes are and shocking plot twists could be?" All right. Thanks a lot for the message, Edward. And yes, there, amongst all these really, really positive reactions that are coming out for Spider-Man Far From Home, one of the common refrains we're hearing from all the people, including the people I've spoken to, are saying, as a set of post-credit scenes, maybe and probably no MCU movie has had a better, more relevant pair of post-credit scenes ever. Like 1 or 2 post-credit scenes in the MCU might be the best post-credit scene ever, but as a combined pair, having 2 of them, because a lot of the MCU movies will have 2 post-credit scenes. One's usually pretty good, one's usually meh. But they're saying this is a pair. They're both amazing, shocking, plot twisty, surprising, like all this kind of stuff. They're just saying best post-credit scenes ever. So, which has led a lot of people, including me, to wonder, and like Edward, what could these post-credit scenes be? What could be in these post-credit scenes that are so surprising and so shocking and could possibly all that plot twisting, all that kind of stuff? Because I started having some theories about what maybe could be in the post-credit scenes, but all the theories I had up until now weren't all that plot twisty or shocking or super surprising or anything. I just thought they would be something simple. Like maybe, remember, these are all guesses from me. So none of this is spoilers. This is all guesses from me. Like I thought maybe, a post-credit scene of Aunt May and Jon Favreau's happy being on a date, or Peter awkwardly walking in on Hap and Aunt May making out, or, something simple like that. Something about MJ maybe along those lines. I was just thinking something cute like Spider-Man, something cute, something endearing, and give us a little bit of a chuckle. I've been thinking on those levels, which is probably what a lot of you guys have been thinking on that level as well, something a little more shallow. But if it's going to be something big, if we know it's going to be something big, something we absolutely have to stay in our seats for to make sure we catch, there are a couple of theories that come to mind. And again, let me reemphasize, I have heard no insider information. Nobody has leaked to me what they are. This is just me blindly speculating, like all of you are blindly speculating, okay? So on that level of just blindly speculating, there's a couple of things that come to mind that would be crowd pleasing and that I think people would say is surprising and kind of plot twisty a little bit. One of them that comes to mind for me is an introduction of Norman Osborn buying the Avengers Tower. That's been one that a lot of people have been speculating for a long time anyway. So it seems to me, if we're going to have some big, shocking, really relevant kind of post-credit scene, it strikes me that maybe an Osborn buying that building could be one of them. The second kind of, granted, once again, purely talking out of my ass, pure fan speculation, theories go, and all that kind of stuff, is that we find out that Nick Fury isn't actually Nick Fury. Rob expressed his theory that he thinks maybe Nick Fury in this movie all along has been Chameleon. And full credit to Robert Meyer Burnett. That's been his main theory. He's said that on the show many times, that he thinks that we're going to find out in this movie that the Nick Fury in this movie isn't Nick Fury at all. It's actually the Chameleon. That could be something that would qualify as a big, shock, surprising, relevant thing to be plopped into a Spider-Man end credit scene. That's another good one. A third option is the next overarching big bad guy will be introduced. So, each individual MCU movie's had its own antagonist, but overall, Thanos has cast a shadow over everything so far. Maybe they're going to use Spider-Man Far From Home in a post-credit scene to introduce us to the notion or concept of what the next shadow casting overarching villain will be. Whether that's a Kang or whether that's somebody else entirely, who knows? I have no idea. Now, there are some people speculating right now that it's going to be an X-Men thing or a Fantastic Four thing. I highly doubt any of those things because, once again, Kevin Feige's made it pretty clear they're not going to touch Fantastic Four or X-Men for a number of years, but anything is possible. I think it's incredibly unlikely, but in the world of the MCU and with Kevin Feige, anything is possible at all. So that's been a popular theory, but I don't buy into that one little bit. But again, leaving that little margin that anything's possible. So there are a number of things that could come up here. And that really puts it back to you guys. What do you think it's going to be? What do you think these big plot twisty? Now, it's also, let's acknowledge this too. It's difficult to formulate a solid theory when we haven't seen the movie yet. Because maybe watching the movie would completely, nullify any of these theories that I have. Maybe if I watch the movie, and I see there is a chameleon in the movie, and Chameleon, but which, by the way, I don't know, and Chameleon dies in the movie, well, that kills the Nick Fury theory. So it's hard to really formulate a solid post-credit scene theory when we haven't seen the film yet. So again, we're all just randomly speculating. I think it's fascinating. I love hearing from everybody who's seen the movie that these things are there. I love it when the MCU puts in really good post-credit scenes. So I'm looking forward to this. So what's your guys' theory on this whole thing? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, with that down, let's now move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets sent in to us from Abner Milan, who writes, Hi, John. Greetings from Monterrey. Well, thank you so much. Monterrey, Mexico. Love your show. Thank you so much, Abner. With all social media talking about Avengers Endgame Ultimate Edition, well, it's ridiculous, or whatever it's going to be called, I was thinking if this big, massive movie cannot dethrone Avatar's record, even with this major boost, quote unquote, re-release, what kind of movie could actually do it? All right. Thanks a lot for the question, Abner, and appreciate you writing in. So let's get a couple things straight here first. Talked about this on yesterday's show, but it is still stunning to me that I'm seeing a lot of misinformation being spread around on social media by people on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, like just fans saying, oh, can't wait for the re-release new extended version of Avengers Endgame. There is still a ton of movie fans out there and Avengers and MCU fans out there who are thinking, number one, this is a re-release. It's not a re-release, and we'll talk about that in a second. But number two, are still thinking this is an extended version of the movie, that there are new scenes being added into the movie. And I'm not trying to be negative about this at all. I just want people who are going to buy tickets to go and see this extra stuff understand what it is they're paying for. Guys, please make sure, if you have friends who are talking like this, that they're all excited to go see this extended edition of Avengers Endgame, make sure they know this is not an extended edition of Endgame. This is the exact same movie. They have not added any new scenes or any new footage into the movie itself. The movie is still 100% still the exact same movie. The only thing that's new is they're adding some things because there was no post-credit stuff for Endgame. They are adding some post-credit stuff, including a single, Kevin Feige said, deleted scene. They're going to put one deleted scene in the post-credits. They said there's going to be a tribute, which I'm just going to assume is going to be a Stan Lee tribute, and a couple little fun things, I'm guessing blooper reel stuff. So my guess, according to what Kevin Feige said, is there's going to be one deleted scene, a tribute to Stan Lee. I'm guessing it's to Stan Lee. And when he says a couple of fun little things, I'm going to guess it's going to be some blooper reel stuff, which could be some pretty fun stuff. Nothing wrong with any of that. That's all cool. I just really want to make sure that our fellow film fans, if they're going to buy tickets and go see it, that they know what they are and what they are not getting. They are not getting an extended version of the movie. Please make sure your friends know that, because I just don't want people to pay for something and not get what they expected to get. That's all I'm concerned about here. And the whole re-release thing too. Guys, it's not rocket science. I had this twit last night trying to debate me on Twitter saying, John, it is a re-release. I'm like, no, the movie is still in theaters. It's in over 1,400 theaters. It's not in every theater that it has been, but it is still in its theatrical run. Now, it's just semantics, granted, but guys, facts matter, even though this is just semantics. Facts matter. If a movie is still in release, it expanding is not a re-release. Re-releasing means its release is done and finished, and now you're going to put it out in theaters again. That's what re-release is. This is not a re-release. It's still in 1,400 theaters. It's still in its theatrical run. It's just getting expanded again. I think. How expanded, we don't know. So when a movie comes out in limited release for its first 2 weeks, it's on like 100 screens. And then on its third week, it expands and goes on like 2,000 screens. We don't say it re-released. We just say it expanded. Again, it's just semantics. But facts matter, folks. And some people, this somebody on Twitter last night was desperately trying to argue with me. No, John, because it was playing on 4 screens in my local theater. Now it's only playing on 2. If it comes out on another 3rd, that means it re-released on that screen. I'm like, dude, that's not what it means anyway. It's funny. It's not a big deal. It's not important. It's just semantics, I know. But it's funny how these little things just bother me so much. It's not a re-release. Anyway. Little thing shouldn't bother me at all. But now let's get to the main part of the question. But you're absolutely right, John. Thank you so much for that backing up, Forky. I appreciate it. See, guys, Forky agrees with me and the debate. Anyway, so let's get on to the main part of the question. Avengers Endgame right now is still sitting about 40 something million dollars behind Avatar. It's going to get a little bit of a bump with this new post-credit stuff that they're going to put in there. How big of a bump? I don't know. Will it be enough to catch Avatar? I doubt it. I don't think so, but it's possible. But let's say for a second that it doesn't. What if it doesn't catch Avatar, even with Spider-Man Far From Home coming out and even with this post-credit stuff being added to the movie? Let's say it still doesn't catch it. Falls $15 million short, whatever. The question that comes up is a very interesting one. If Endgame can't do it, even after a slight bump coming from Spider-Man Far From Home, and even after, putting new post-credit stuff into the movie while it's in theaters, if it still can't do it, what the hell will? What the hell will catch this Avatar record? If not Endgame, that opened over $357 million on its opening weekend. Never going to see anything like that again. What could possibly catch Avatar if not this? If not now, when? And it's a good question, because a lot of us in our lifetimes have never seen a complete out-of-the-gate juggernaut like what Avengers Endgame was and is. We've never seen a movie out-of-the-gate juggernaut like Endgame has. And if that isn't enough to catch up to the longevity and all the stuff that Avatar did to get its record, if that's not enough to do it, a 21 film, 11 year, 22 major Hollywood superstars movie that had all this buildup and everything with this sort of out of the gate opening weekend, blah, blah, blah. If that can't catch Avatar, can anything? I'm going to say this. If Endgame doesn't catch Avatar, I'm going to say that nothing will in the next 5 years. Something eventually will catch Avatar. Something eventually will. But I don't think within the next 5 years. I don't see anything on the radar in the next 5 years that really legitimately has a chance right now of catching what I don't think a Star Wars movie is going to do it. Hell, I don't even think an Avengers 5 will do it, because Avengers 5 isn't going to be a 21 film build-up, accumulation, the Infinity Saga all wrapped. Even Avengers 5 isn't going to be that. So I don't think a Star Wars movie is going to do it. I don't think a DC movie is going to do it. I don't think a Marvel film is going to do it. I don't think a Bond movie is going to do it. I don't think a Bourne's movie is going to do it. I don't think a Harry Potter movie is going to do it. Nothing in the next 5 years. Outside of 5 years, probably eventually at some point. But then the question becomes, the movie that does eventually catch Avatar, what movie will it be? John, if you're saying you think something will eventually catch Avatar, but you don't think it'll be MCU, you don't think it'll be Star Wars, you don't think it'll be Harry Potter, then what's left? What could possibly catch it? I would suggest this, and I've mentioned something like this before theoretically, but I think it comes into play here. When you look at, before Endgame, the top 2 box office movies of all time, weren't a Star Wars movie, wasn't a comic book movie, wasn't any franchise movies. Before Endgame came out, the 2 all-time biggest movies ever were 2 single, non-franchised, standalone movies. Avatar is becoming a franchise, but at the time, it was Titanic in the number 2 spot, and it was Avatar in the number 1 spot. 2 films that were not a part of franchises, that didn't have 5-year buildups, that weren't part 4, that weren't, whatever, any other type of descriptor you could add to it. Wasn't any of that. All the things we now attribute to major big blockbuster movies. We attribute they got to be sequels. They got to be part of franchises. They got to have massive buildups. They have to have multi-year interconnected stories of blah, blah, blah. But before Endgame, the 2 films that were the top dogs was Titanic and Avatar. And I would probably suggest that my guess, and I've mentioned this before, is that whatever movie it is that eventually now comes along and comes down the river to top Avatar is probably going to be another film like that. It's probably going to be a movie that we don't see coming. It's probably going to be a movie that doesn't break the opening weekend box office record. Remember, Avatar opened to what? Didn't even make $100 million opening week. I think Avatar made $70 million. So 70 something million dollars its opening weekend. It's a good opening weekend, but nowhere near record shattering. I think it's going to be a movie like that. That doesn't explode onto the scene. It's going to be a movie that comes out, gets great reviews, gets great word of mouth, that people just keep coming back again and again and again and again and again and keep wanting to go see this movie. It's going to be one of those. I don't think it's going to be a franchise. I don't think it's going to be a sequel. It's going to be an Avatar or a Titanic, a standalone movie that comes out of nowhere and just captures the pop cultural consciousness. And I honestly think that's going to be the movie that tops it. If Endgame doesn't do it first. And it's possible it will. I still don't think it will, but it's still possible that it will. So let's keep that in mind as well. So the question for you guys is, and this will be the topic of today's question of the day. And the question of the day today is this: if Endgame doesn't catch Avatar's all-time box office record, can you see any movie catching it within the next 5 years? I plopped this up on my Twitter just minutes before we started the show, and here's what you guys have been saying so far. And you guys can go over to my Twitter right now. You can see my Twitter handle right here. You can go on over there and cast your vote for it. Right now, the question of the day: if Endgame doesn't catch Avatar's all-time box office record, can you see any movie catching it within the next 5 years? Right now, over 1,600 of you guys have cast a vote. 14% of you are saying yes. Within 5 years, a movie is going to come out that's going to do it. 86% of you are saying no, not even within the next 5 years will we see that record fall if Endgame doesn't do it. I'm going to leave this poll up for a little while, guys. Go on over and cast your vote for it and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's move on to the fifth and final main topic of the day. And our fifth and final main topic today comes to us from Mark Neves, who writes, I've been a big fan of your career since the AMC days. Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate that, man. Wanted to ask you, how is the process of making your show every day? I don't want to know all your secrets, but a rundown of how you make it look so easy. I don't know if I make it look easy. Thanks for bringing on so many hours of enjoyment. All right. Thanks a lot for that question, Mark. And it's a Friday, so why not do a little bit of, give you guys a little bit of a peek behind the curtain to see what it is that's going on here, what it is I do here. So sure, why not? Let's do that. All right. So the first thing I'm going to say, let's run down the schedule. What does my daily schedule for a regular weekday John Campea show look like? So here's the general schedule of what pulling one of these shows together looks like. And then we'll go into some of the technical aspects, if you'll indulge me. So here we go. Generally speaking, an individual John Campea's show day starts at 3 p.m. the day before the show, okay? That's generally when a John Campea Show episode begins coming together, is at 3 p.m. roughly 3 p.m. the day before. So at 3 p.m., what I start doing is I start researching topics and pick, once I go through all the topics, the news feeds, going through all the news sites, reading up on stories, doing a little bit of research, blah, blah, blah. I come out of that and I pick what the movie news feed stories are going to be. You guys know that Fact Checker Jonathan does the movie news feed every day. Well, that's right around the time when I start to go through to identify and pick out what the 5 stories are that I want to be a part of the movie news feed. And there's a lot of stories every day, and there's a lot of reading to be done and blah, blah, blah. But still, I'm able to usually knock that part out in about an hour. Then at about 4 o'clock, I start reading through, and I read all of them, the 100 to 200 emails that get sent in every day, or the forms that you guys fill out at www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. When you fill that out and hit submit, it emails me that response. So I've got 100 to 200 of those that I need to go through every day, not to mention just other emails that people send me to that email address regarding the show. So I go, about 4 o'clock, I go through those and I start to pick out what our main topics are going to be for the next day's show. Now, not all the main topics are out there by 4 to 6 p.m. on a day, but at least there are a few of them out there. So I start to go through those emails and I start to pick out what our main topics are going to be. I go through and read the emails. If a topic sounds interesting, I go and do a little bit of research to see, is there something interesting to say about it? All that kind of stuff. That process usually takes, again, generally it's give or take, generally a couple of hours. So that takes me up to about 6 p.m. Now at about 6:15 p.m., again, give or take, I'll make a preview video for the next day's show. Some of you who follow me on social media know that earlier this week, or was it last week, I started this new thing where I put out a 1-minute video, 45-second to 1-minute video each night, giving you guys a little bit of a look into what we're going to be talking about as main topics the next day on the John Campea Show. So I'll say, hey guys, it's John, here's some of the stories we're working on for tomorrow's John Campea Show, and I'll read down the list of the stories that we're going to be covering just to give you guys a heads up for the next day. So I record that, publish it, all that kind of stuff. Now, after that's done, around 6:30, 6:45, then I still have meetings. I have to do all my social media stuff because I maintain a number of social media platforms. I go through the comments of that day's John Campea Show that we did earlier that morning. I go through because even though I don't respond a lot, I actually read. I used to say I read all of the comments. There are so many comments now that I must admit I don't read all of them, but I do spend a lot of time going through comments and reading as many as I can. And then, of course, screenings in the evening, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay, so now we get to the day of the show. And it's 5 a.m. So at 5 a.m., the first thing I do is I start searching for news stories that broke overnight or broke that morning. Because remember, 5 a.m. here in Los Angeles is actually 8 a.m. on the East Coast, and a lot of news is already coming out. So about 5 a.m., I start checking for news stories, going through all the sources again very quickly, and seeing if there's anything major that I will make as a part of Off the Tops. At about 5:30 a.m., I begin making graphics. Now, you might say to yourself, but John, I thought Ray did all the graphics. Well, no, what Ray actually does right now is Ray does our main template graphics, and he also does the graphics for all the thumbnails and all major graphics. But graphics for things that are like in the show, like this graphic you see right here. All graphics that are actually used in the show itself, for the most part, are graphics that things that I need to put together myself. So about 5:30 in the morning, let me see if I can pull this up here. At about 5:30 in the morning, what I do is I pull up, and let me give you a quick look at this. I pull up Photoshop, and for each one of these topics, I put together these what I call framework graphics. So framework graphics for each thing. Of course, I go in the middle here. This is where you'd see me in the middle. And then I just select out images. I then go with the story, plop one in here, plop one in there, come up with a little title for it, export it as a transparent graphic to be integrated a little bit later. Then, of course, again, there are these little side graphics. Here's one that I used earlier in the show. So whether they're factoids or infographics or just headline graphics, I make these things, get those exported out. Sometimes I got to do a little bit of work and touch on the thumbnail a little bit myself, all that kind of stuff. So there's that there as well. So I start making those graphics. That takes me a while. That takes me about 2 hours to make all the in-show graphics. Now, once the in-show graphics are done around 7:30 a.m., what I then do is I go and put together the live event on YouTube. So I write the description, do all the keywords, set the release time, all that kind of stuff. Takes me about a half hour to write it all up. Sometimes a little bit less, but generally speaking, about a half hour, get that all set and publish the YouTube live event. Now, at 8 a.m., remember, we start at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. At 8 a.m., what I then do is start to assemble the broadcast project in a piece of software I use called Wirecast, and I'll bring it up here right now. So here's Wirecast. Ignore the infinity stuff going on up here. But down here, I now take all those graphics, all right? I take all those graphics and I start assembling them. So like, for instance, one of these, I'll show you, one of these shots here. One of these shots where we've got me in the shot, the title, I've got sound and alerts come up because when somebody puts in a super chat, the super chat alert comes up, all that kind of stuff. So to put this shot together, what I do is I take that shot, and you can see on the side here, there's a bunch of different layers. I just layer these things together, get them all positioned for each individual shot. And I need to do that for each single shot. Then I make some of the top line graphics, things like, like our emails, like an email graphic like that, getting those placed, putting everything in order, all that kind of stuff. So I just basically start to assemble the broadcast, make sure the audio is working in all of them. You guys who've watched the show know that sometimes we have accidental audio issues where you'll hear echoes and things like that. This is where I got to go through all these shots, make sure that everything is balanced out correctly. We got everything that we need and all that kinds of stuff. So at about 8 a.m., that's when I do the assembling the broadcast into the Wirecast project. So that's at 8. Now at 8:30 a.m., by around 8:30 a.m., Rob, and when Ashley was still here, Ashley and Rob would show up around 8. Now it's just Rob showing up at 8:30, I mean. So at 8:30, Rob and I take our places and we do our final camera checks and mic checks, making sure that in shots like this one you're looking at right now, that I'm properly positioned in the shot, that the audio is working properly, that the our camera positioning in all the various different types of shots, like this one, that I'm properly positioned. When it's Rob and me, we'll have a graphic here in the middle with Rob and me on both sides, making sure that we're all properly positioned and all that kind of stuff. So that's generally what we do at 8:30 in the morning. Then, of course, when all that's done, we start our final countdown. And from 9 a.m. to about 11 or 11:15, to be honest, is when we do the live show. That's the hours that we do the live show. So we've been taking up to about 2 hours. Sometimes it goes longer than that. So roughly say about 11:15. That's the live show. Now, once the live show is complete, at about 11:30 a.m., I take the live show, because I also record it, and then I edit and chop up the individual segments. So each story that we talked about, I edit out into an individual video clip that we then put up on the YouTube channel later. Now, the reason I do that now instead of Ray is because it would take about 20 to 30 minutes for Ray to get the main show file, to transfer it to him, for him to start cutting, whereas I can start cutting it right away. And so the faster we can start cutting it, the faster we're going to get these things up on online. So at about 11:30, I cut up all the segments and then upload them to YouTube, where Ray then goes in there, puts in the titles, his thumbnails, all that kind of stuff, and then Ray publishes that a little bit later. So that usually takes me about a half hour to 45 minutes. Then at 12 p.m., I have lunch. I'll sit down for an hour and have lunch or whatever. Then about 1:30 p.m., most days I have companion videos I have to do. So usually around 1:30 p.m., I'll sit down and do a companion video. That'll normally take me around an hour, maybe a little bit longer than that, to record the video, then export it, upload it to YouTube, put in the thumbnail, put in the description, all that kind of stuff. That usually take me an hour to an hour and a half. And then it's 3 o'clock and we go right back up to the top. Then it's 3 o'clock and it's time to start working on the next day's show. And then we start this process here all over again. Now, you also have to keep in mind that in the midst of all this, down at the bottom, what you'll see there in yellow is that daytime and nighttime, none of this schedule includes meetings. Yesterday, I had a lunch meeting. So I had to do a bunch of stuff, run out of the house, go to this meeting, blah, blah, blah. Meetings, more social media stuff that I try to do throughout the entire day, going through comments, screenings. Last night, of course, I was in the theater for 6 hours last night. I've got another screening coming up on Tuesday, and then a screening on Wednesday, and then a screening on Thursday. Even though I don't go to many press screenings anymore, I still got to see the movies at some point, right? So there's that. So it's all that kind of stuff. That is a general walk through my day. That, generally speaking, is a general walk through my day. So some days, my work day ends at 7 p.m., which is great. Starts at 5 a.m., ends at around 7:30. If I'm lucky, maybe 6:30. Some days, my day ends at 12:30 midnight. You know, I'll start working at 5, and then last night get home from my last screening around 12:30. Sometimes that's my day. So give and takes a little bit, but that's generally speaking. And by the way, in this whole list, what you guys don't see is Ray and Jonathan doing their stuff too. So like earlier in the day when I send out the movie news feed stories and topics, Jonathan then has to put together the movie news feed. When I send out the main show topics, Ray starts assembling any main graphics I need, including thumbnails, including the main show thumbnail, the individual segment thumbnails, and he puts together the email graphics for me as well, which are these ones. So I send Ray the questions and Ray puts these email graphics together for me. So there you have it, guys. I'm sure that bored most of you guys. I'm sure that bored most of you guys to death, and that's fine. I thought it was fascinating. Thank you, Forky. That's good to hear, man. You're a great supporter. But I'm sure that was boring to a lot of you guys. But there it is. That's the general main walk down through my day, and I love it. And I love doing this gig, and I love doing this show, and I'm super excited and happy and thrilled and honored that so many of you guys come along for the ride with me as we do it. All right, guys, with that down and out of the way, it's now time for us to go over to our main questions. See, I've got it all, main questions on the brain already. It is time for us to go to our live questions that you guys have been sending in. Now, if you guys will forgive me, I'm going to take a moment here and turn on the air conditioner. It's getting kind of hot in here, so I'm going to turn on the air. So it might be a little bit loud. My apologies, but I'm going to start sweating and turning into the Wicked Witch of the West into a pool of gunk on the floor if I don't turn on my air. Okay, with that down, let's go over and start taking the main questions today. And our main questions today first one comes to us from Blu-ray Billy, who writes, just found out Annabelle 3 comes out next weekend. Is it next weekend? Is that the release? I'm looking forward to Annabelle 3. I did not like the first Annabelle. I thought the second Annabelle was great. So I'm looking for, and I think the trailers for this Annabelle Comes Home, I think that's what it's called. I'm looking forward to it. I totally forgot it comes out this week. Amir B writes, Toy Story 4 floored me. Best, funniest, and most emotional movie of the year. The new characters killed me, especially Forky and Duke Kaboom. First time I cried since Logan. I'm telling you what, Amir, there were a lot of wet eyes in that theater last night. A lot of weepy eyes in that theater last night. Again, I still think Booksmart is my favorite movie of the year, but Toy Story 4 may be my second favorite movie of the year now. Maybe even more than John Wick 3 or Endgame or whatever. I got to think about it. I try not to place movies one day after seeing it. I got to simmer on a little bit. But yeah, man, Toy Story 4 was just unfreaking believable. It was just wonderful. Wonderful film. Jason Lauricella writes, what do you do when someone pulls out their phone in a movie theater? If it's one time, nothing. If it's one time, nothing. If somebody does it again, I'll very, passive aggressively just kind of say loud enough just so they can hear, really? But I got to admit, I know other people have nightmare experiences and that sucks. I gotta admit, in the last 5-6 years, I've found theater etiquette getting better. There are still things that happen. There are still things that bother me. But I find it doesn't happen that often anymore. As a matter of fact, watching, when I was in the theater for Child's Play, some guy sitting a row in front of me pulled out his phone at one point, but he looked at it very quickly, immediately put it against his chest and slid it down, put it in his pocket, and it never came out again. I'm like, okay, that's all right. That's fine. But every once in a while, I'll just very passively, aggressively go, really? And then that's about it. JB Bonifacio writes, John, the final trailer for Stranger Things Season 3, I haven't seen that yet, has me feeling Chernobyl who? Oh, I doubt that. That's some big talk right there, JB. I mean, I got to see it myself. But it has me feeling Chernobyl who? It's that riveting. Have a good Friday. You all are breathtaking. Well, thank you so much, JB. I appreciate that. I don't know, man. That's a big claim, my friend. That's a big claim, JB. Big claim. Hold a second. Let me just see where we're going on this. Okay, so first of all, I'm saying it's a big claim when I haven't actually seen the movie yet. I'm just going to see if I can pull up the trailer so I can make sure I have this ready to go later. Okay. All set. I will watch this trailer later. But that's you just raised the bar real high, JB. You just raised the bar really high. Okay, Anthony R writes, Baldo is an upcoming Italian video game inspired by Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Studio Ghibli. Has beautiful animation. First of all, you said Italian. For those of you who don't know, I am Italian. My real name is Giovanni. So you got my interest. Anything that involves being Italian or Canadian and you get my interest. That sounds amazing. A combination of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Studio Ghibli. Okay, Anthony, you've piqued my interest. You've got my interest. I'm going to have to check that out now. Grandmaster writes, am I the only one still looking forward to see the final video of the Captain Marvel spoiler talk super chats, or should I stop waiting for them? You know what? It is a growing point of embarrassment for me. We finished all the Endgame stuff. We finished everything. I still have not done, there's not many left. I still haven't done the final round. It's to the point that it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's flat out embarrassing. We're to the point right now that we still have not done the final little batch. Partially because I'm swamped, but partially also because I just keep forgetting about it. And I shouldn't. There's no excuse for it. There are people, granted, we got the vast majority of them done, but there are still people waiting who sent in super chats during the Captain Marvel thing, and I still haven't finished it off yet. There's no excuse. There's none. Except that I get really busy, and then a part of getting busy is I forget the other things I'm supposed to do, and it's still not done. Look, I'm embarrassed. It's got to get done. It's got to get done. At this point, it's just going to be a joke when it finally gets done. The movie's going to be celebrating its 3rd anniversary by the time it gets done. But I got to get it done. And you are not wrong, Grandmaster, to bring it up. You're not wrong to bring it up. I got to get to those. I owe it to you guys. I got to get to those. All right. Jay Bling writes, saw Murder Mystery on Netflix and I thought it was just okay. Can see why some enjoyed it and others hated it. I'll say this, the likely inevitable third Sandler-Aniston pairing should be a drama. Well, I personally think everything Adam Sandler should do now is drama. I think he has exceptional drama talent. I really do. I'm not being facetious. I think he's extraordinary, actually. At this point in his career, I think he's far better at drama than he is at comedy. I haven't liked any of his comedy in forever. And I have just no interest in watching Murder Mystery. It looks like another dumb Adam Sandler comedy. I've heard, granted, there have been some people, Jay Bling, that have said to me it's not bad. I've even had 1 or 2 people tell me they actually quite enjoyed it, but I've also heard from a ton of people that it's everything that I thought it would be, which is pretty crappy. So I don't know. I just, considering I still have Captain Marvel questions to do, and tons of other things I need to watch, I just don't see me spending 2 hours to sit down and watch a straight to Netflix Adam Sandler comedy at this point. I don't got it in me, dude. I just don't have it in me. All right. Either Audrey writes, for my weekly anime recommendations, since YouTube doesn't acknowledge the enter key, the formatting will be genre, descriptor, show name, show description. So the previous show was Re-Life. Okay, so that was a previous one you did. I can't remember the specifics of that incident, but there we go. One of the recommendations that Ether is giving. By the way, I love it when you guys give recommendations, because sometimes I go and follow up and I watch the recommendations, but even when the recommendations I don't go watch, a lot of people watching this show will go and follow up and watch the recommended thing, and I constantly get people emailing me and telling me, hey, somebody in your live chat suggested I watch this. I went and watched it and I loved it, which is awesome. That's what the film fan community is all about. So thank you for sharing those recommendations, Ether. All right. Anthony R. writes, have you ever had your burnout days or weeks? Oh God, yes. I want to see Toy Story 4, but not this weekend. I'm too tired. Besides, I want to play Crash Team Racing. There you go. Yeah, no, dude, I can totally relate. Now, on top of doing the John Campea Show Monday through Friday, we also do shows on weekends. So I work 2 to 3 hours every Saturday and every Sunday as well. This Sunday, I'll be working about 5 to 6 hours because on top of the open mic, we're also going to be doing a Toy Story open spoiler discussion. So believe me, Anthony, I know what you mean. There are sometimes the weekend comes and I'm just like, I don't want to do open mic, even though I have a lot of fun doing open mic. I love doing open mics. They're a lot of fun, but there are sometimes Friday evening hits and I'm like, I'm done. So I get it. I feel you. I don't even feel like going to a movie. And I love going to the movies, but there are some nights they just hit. It's like, I don't even feel like going to a movie, dude. So I totally relate with where you're coming from, my friend. All right. Either Audrey follows up and writes, weekly anime recommendation, genre, comedy, Gabriel Dropout, Angel Gabriel, no tie to biblical Gabriel. Goes on her first Earth tour to learn how to better serve/save humanity, but ends up addicted to video games. Okay, that sounds fun. I'm not a big anime guy. There's some animes I'm totally in love with, but I'm not a big anime guy. But that does sound funny. So that's something I'm guessing that's on Netflix. I'll have to go and check that out at some point. All right, thanks for the recommendation, Either. Evan Hill writes, hey, John, what's your favorite Fincher movie? Thanks. Actually, somebody asked me that exact same question just a couple of days ago. So I'm going to go, while there's a big argument to be made for Social Network, I go Gone Girl. I just love Gone Girl. Now, my answer to that may change depending on the day or the week of the month, but I kind of lean towards Gone Girl. I just love that movie. All right, Dim-Sum05 writes, Spider-Man 2 is my favorite movie of all time. It's a magnificent film, Dim Sum. It's a magnificent comic book movie. People raving Far From Home is better than Spider-Man 2 is like people saying Episode 9 is better than Return of the Jedi. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm with you, Dim Sum. I'm with you. Like, I hear people, that's my first reaction when I heard some people telling me, I think it's the best Spider-Man movie ever. And I'm like, what? Better than Spider-Man 2? Better than Raimi's Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock? Come on now. So I am completely with you. I mean, I'm totally open to that being true. I'm completely open to that being the case and being a fact. I'm completely open to that. But like you, it is a I'll believe it when I see it scenario. But I'd be lying to you, Dim Sum, if I didn't tell you that hearing people talking like that doesn't get me excited, because it does. I'm pretty pumped and I'm looking forward to it. But again, better than Spider-Man 2, believe it when we see it. All right, Lone Wolf X6 writes, hello, John. Hope you're having a good day. I am so far. Thank you so much. Could you imagine how insane Tom Cruise stunts would be if he played Daredevil, since he loves his own stunts? Here's the thing. I don't know. Stunts is different from full-on fight choreography. I don't know that he would do all of his fight choreography, because the Daredevil level of fight choreography is different. If he could do all of it, because really with Daredevil, it's more fight choreography than crazy, insane, jumping out of airplanes at the edge of the atmosphere kind of stunts. It's more fight choreography than stunts in Daredevil. But if he were to do something like that, dude, that would just add to his legend. It would just add to his legend. All right, Dimsum05 follows up and writes, have you seen the Corridor digital deep fake of Tom Cruise? Speaking of Tom Cruise, it's wild. It's on YouTube. I have seen that. It's uncanny. It's actually scary. Not that seeing a guy made to look exactly like Tom Cruise is scary, but what's really scary is that knowing that how technology like this is going to be misused. Knowing how technology like this is going to be misused and abused. That's the scary part, but it is pretty freaky when you see it. If you have a chance, go and check out that video that Dim Sum's talking about. Darth Impact writes, one of two. In 2015, I walked out of Avengers Age of Ultron like it's good, but the more I watch it, the more I love it. 2 of 2, and Ultron is my top 5 MCU villains. James Spader brings so much charisma to him. Seriously, listen, I talk about this every once in a while. Avengers Age of Ultron, it might be, other than the original Thor, and with the also possible exception of Captain America, the First Avenger, Age of Ultron is one of the most underrated, I believe, MCU films. Because kind of like Man of Steel, well, I don't think it's as good as Man of Steel, but like Man of Steel, I like Age of Ultron more and more every time I watch it. Every time I watch it, my opinion of it just nudges up a little bit every single time. To the point now that if I'm flipping through like TV and I see some network is broadcasting Age of Ultron, I'll stop for a second and watch it, go, man, this is actually really good. I'm not saying it's among the best MCU movies, but I gotta completely agree with you, Darth Impact. The more I see it, the more I like it. It's got some of the best single moments in the MCU ever. Like, forget the party scene when Cap nudges Mjolnir, right? But like, again, I go on and on about it all the time. That scene between Bruce and Black Widow, when they're talking at the party and she's kind of revealing that she's got feelings for him, it's one of the best scenes ever in the MCU. And it's just simple. It's just two people standing at a bar talking to each other. And it's one of the best scenes they've ever had in the MCU. Anyway, and then you got the Ulysses Claw in there, and and of course James Spader as Ultron. I really like this movie a lot. I've come to the point that I love it. Again, I'm not saying it's a top 5 MCU film, but I agree, man. I like it more and more every time I see it. All right, Nick writes, hey guys, would you say that cinema/film/TV is now the majority of today's literature, or do books/novels still carry more weight in pop culture? Oh God, Nick, it's been that way forever. I mean, if you're asking, do more people watch movies and TV or do more people read books? Dude, the answer to that is TV and film for a long time. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. More people should read. Not enough people read. But, oh yeah, I mean, it's not just a new thing now. It has been that way for a long time. For a long time. Movies and TV have far more influence on pop culture than novels do. Novels, the odd novel series can get hot and catch imagination, but I guarantee you more people have watched a Twilight movie than read a Twilight book. As weird as it is to feel that way, but yes, absolutely, 100% Nick, absolutely, 100%. All right. Darth Impact follows up. Watched the Hobbit trilogy recently. Not as good as Lord of the Rings, but still a great fantasy adventure. I like The Hobbit. I like The Hobbit. Completely agree with you, though. Nowhere near the same level as the original Lord of the Rings. Nowhere near the level. And I actually thought the third one was probably the weakest of the Hobbit franchise. But I quite enjoy the first Hobbit movie. I liked the second one, and I enjoyed the third. Again, nowhere near the same level as the original, but I think the Hobbit movies take more crap than they should. Because I actually think they're pretty solid and pretty enjoyable and pretty fun, particularly the first one. But it's just that we often, understandably, compare it to The Hobbit, or we compare it to Lord of the Rings, and clearly it's not on the same level as Lord of the Rings. But yeah, I think it deserves better. I really do. Lone Wolf X6 writes, I heard you struck my son. Yes, sir, I did. And may I ask why? Yeah, well, because he stole John Wick's car, sir, and killed his dog. Oh, isn't the line like he stole the car? So it's a car. It's John Wick's car, if I'm remembering it correctly. And then the line, one of the best lines ever from the mobster, just a simple line of, oh. That moment in that movie is incredible, and it told you everything you needed to know about John Wick. And by the way, I said this before on the show, my one criticism of John Wick 2 and John Wick 3, and I like John Wick 2 and I love John Wick 3, but my one criticism is the mythos of John. They've done away with the mythos of John Wick. In the first John Wick, like, every member of the underground trembled in fear at the mention of the Baba Yaga, to the point that this head mob boss would go, John Wick, and gave him massive pause, and even made him think about uprooting his operation, just getting out of the country. In John Wick 2 and John Wick 3, there's nobody fears John Wick anymore. Nobody's afraid of John Wick anymore. Now everybody just wants to run in and fight him. And I wish they would bring that back. The reverence for the Baba Yaga, I wish they would bring that back. Anyway, and that mythos of him is perfectly embodied in that one moment, Lone Wolf. Anyway, Suthius writes, hey, Mr. Campea, I gotta say I like these teaser trailers you've been putting out. Oh, thank you so much for the next day's show. It gives us time to think up questions and comments. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I kind of like doing it. You know, it came from a suggestion from one of the viewers. One of the viewers, it wasn't a super chat, it was just one of the comments on one of the shows, suggested, they kind of threw this out there. It would be cool if you did a quick little sneak peek the night before of what topics are coming up the next day. And I thought, that's actually not a bad idea. So I experimented with it a little over a week ago. And I didn't know if you guys would think it was stupid, but you guys seem to like it. And I think it's pretty cool. So thank you for that, Suthius. I appreciate the input. All right. Der Wunderbar writes, did you hear about the petition to cancel the Good Omen show that was sent to Netflix? Only one problem, Netflix isn't producing the show. Well, no, they're not producing the show, but they are the broadcaster. So they are the ones to cancel it. When a show gets canceled, it's usually not the production company canceling it. It's the broadcaster that cancels it. So when Netflix got canceled on Fox, it wasn't the production people that canceled it. It was Fox that canceled it. Thankfully, Netflix came along and picked it up and saved it. But it is the broadcaster that does the canceling. So, yeah, so there is that. Keep that in mind. Der Wunderbar writes, Amazon Prime is happy. Oh, I love Amazon Prime. Oh, you're talking about, okay, I see what you're saying. Amazon Prime you're right. You're right about that. Amazon Prime is the distributor, not Netflix. Now I see what you're saying. And you're absolutely right. Amazon Prime is. They should be sending well, then again, I wonder if that's a situation like CBS All Access. Because, CBS All Access, and I don't know the answer to this, I'm just wondering. CBS All Access is only in the US, and I think a couple of other countries too. In other countries, CBS's All Access's shows like Star Trek Discovery are viewed by other people around the world on Netflix. CBS All Access licensed their show to countries where CBS All Access doesn't exist, and they license the show to Netflix. I wonder if maybe that's at play here too with Amazon Prime, or is Amazon Prime in every country? I don't know. But it's an interesting thing to bring up, Der Wunderbar. Now that I understand what you were saying. I can't think of a good username writes, has a petition actually worked for movie stuff? No, I don't think so. Nor should they. By the way, if you want to try to help affect change in something, petitions are stupid. What you really want to do is become a part of a larger support movement that's not petitions. You know, using your own individual social media reach. That by far, because you get millions of people using their own individual social media reach, that is by far more effective than doing petitions. Way more effective. It takes more effort and it takes more energy, but that's part of why I think it has more meaning. But I think that is a little bit bigger than just stupid petitions. So there you go. Irina Poe writes, one of two. Not all Russians hate Chernobyl. No, I think a lot of Russians really like it. On the main Russian movie site, it has one of the highest audience ratings. All the hatred is from the government and insecure people, but who cares? For me, the best series of all time. I watch your show every day from Russia with love. Oh, thank you so much for that, Irina. I appreciate that. I love Chernobyl. It's great. And the funny thing is, you know, for people who are, oh, what does Russia think about? It portrays the Russian people both as the heroes and the victims. And, you know, every show has its dick, and if a show is a show based in the US, usually an American is the dick. Americans are also the heroes, but it's usually an American who's the dick. So a show based in Russia, yeah, your antagonists are going to be, really the villain is Chernobyl itself. But, you know, you get the odd character in there that's a dick. Sure, they're Russian, but because that's where the story takes place. To me, what I walked away from watching Chernobyl is the heroism and the bravery of a bunch of Russian scientists and people and the tragedy that the Russian people went through. That's what stands out to me the most. And I think that's why, you're right, Irina, I think that's why even a lot of the Russians are responding to it. Because I think it portrays Russian people in a very, very positive light. But anyway, thanks for sharing that, Irina. I appreciate that. All right, CJ Dunn writes, you were not fooling anyone cutting the camera. Oh, I see where you're going with this. You were not fooling anyone cutting the camera away on yesterday's show, John. Goes to show how much you care for your fans. Just another reason why I love you and your show. Keep up the awesome job, JC. Hashtag cry time. Okay, just quickly. One of our viewers yesterday sent in a thing talking about their grandfather has cancer, and watching the John Campea Show helps the grandfather get through the day. The thing about live shows is that you can't take a minute, you can't pause, and I will confess that hit me a little hard. That hit me a little bit hard when I read that. Not in a sad way, but in I was overwhelmed by that message. I was overwhelmed by it. And I realized as I tried to start to speak and as I tried to start to respond, and if you see the video from yesterday, you'll see me go, I realized it got caught right here. And I realized at that moment, if I try to utter a sound, it's going to come out as blithering sobbing. And so what I immediately did was I cut the camera over to Rob. And thankfully, Rob is so sharp and so on the ball. He saw that I cut to his camera. He saw I got a monitor behind me that Rob can see. So it cut to Rob's shot, and Rob saw him come up, and Rob immediately knew what was happening. Rob immediately knew, because Rob and I, we got together later and talked about it, but Rob immediately picked up that I was not in a condition that I could say anything. He saw that I cut the camera to him, and so he just dove in and gave a great answer. Gave a great answer to it. I don't think that makes me a good person. I think I'm a good person, but I don't think that makes me a good person. I think that was just more of a testimony to the beauty of the message that somebody sent in, and it caught me, and it just caught me off guard, and I was just going to be a blithering idiot, and I don't like looking like a blithering idiot, at least not as much as possible, and so I cut away. But so anyway. Thank you for the kind words, CJ. I appreciate it. Thank you. Nick writes, here, totally agree with you on CJ Dunn. Thank you for that, Nick. I appreciate that too, man. All right, Der Wunderbar. I'm glad they didn't give Hawkeye the Silver Age costume in Avengers. That would have been too weird. Oh, I agree. There are some costumes in comic books I think translate well to the screen. Hawkeyes, that one in particular would not have translated well, I don't think. Austin Church writes, my grandpa, and Austin was the one who sent in the message. My grandpa, Ron, was really touched by you and Robert's response yesterday, so thank you, John. Glad to have people like you and Robert around in the world. Well, no, we are grateful to have people like you as a part of the film fan community. And that was really sweet and nice of you to send that in and tell us that. So thank you so much for that, Austin, and I appreciate it very, very much. It's our honor and privilege. All right, Suthius writes, just saw a trailer for The Terror, Infamy involving supernatural elements during the Japanese concentration camps. Good to see more Asians on screen. I have not heard of this, Suthius. I'm going to have to go and see if I can look that up because that sounds interesting. I've not even heard of this one yet. So, okay, The Terror, Infamy. Let me open it up. Hold on a second. The Terror, Infamy trailer. Okay. I've got that opened up. I will check that out afterwards. Just the thumbnail looks terrifying. All right, I will check that out later. Timbula the Spider Monkey writes, watching all the Godzilla films for about the 100th time, do you have a favorite? Shin Godzilla or GMK Giant Monster? All Out Attack for me. I'll be honest, look, I've seen, I believe, just about every Godzilla movie. However, I am not like Rob. I'm not a huge Godzilla fan. Of course, I got a kick out of them as a kid, but a lot of them all just blurred together for me. I couldn't tell you, to be 100% honest with you, I couldn't tell you which one was my favorite because a lot of them just blur together for me. I'm not the biggest I like Godzilla, but I'm just not the biggest Godzilla fan in the world like a Robert is. Robert, I'm sure could tell you his top 10 favorite ones. I personally can't because for me, a lot of them just kind of blend together on that level. Zach Kearney writes, Toy Story 4, wow. It's been almost 2 years since I've walked out of a movie I like as much as that. Best movie of 2019 by a mile. And Zach, you know, I may not go that far personally, but it's a wonderful film. Oh my God, it's so good. It's one of those films where there will be people who don't like it because all film is subjective. But it's one of those films that even though I understand all film's subjective, I just won't understand how somebody would watch this movie and not at least like it a little bit. It's just that good. Obviously, there will be people like that because film is subjective, but man, it's just so good. It's just so good. I'm Upset writes, Robert Downey Jr., Dr. Dolittle film budget was $175 million. Yeah, I know, and it's a mistake. I don't think that movie's going to break even. I do not think Dr. Dolittle is going to break even. Now, I haven't seen the movie. For all I know, the trailers are going to be the best trailers of all time, and it's going to be a fabulous movie, and it's going to make $2 billion for all I know. But off the top of my head, that feels like a big mistake. Anyway, Anselmo Garza writes, hey, John, I'm curious to know what will happen to our digital movies after Disney Plus and Warner Brothers launches theirs. Doesn't seem fair to buy it anymore. You should still 100% have your digital movies. I don't know that I would be buying any more digital movies from Disney or Lucasfilm or Pixar or Marvel after I get Disney Plus because I'll have Disney Plus. Why would I even buy a digital copy if I'm going to have it there at my fingertips that I can go and watch anytime that I want? But if, like, I've already purchased digital movies, but I've purchased those. I have the license to those. I can have those. So those won't just disappear. There are some rumors going around online and people saying, oh, when Disney launches Disney Plus, they're revoking all people's digital copies of the movie. No, they're not. No, they're not. You'll still have your digital copy. It'll still be there. You still have rights to that. So don't worry about that. I just don't know why I would buy any more after Disney Plus launches. Eddie Herrera writes, if Avatar gets re-released before the sequel, will its overall record be even harder to beat? Here's the thing. I was having this conversation with somebody on social media, and I said, you know, somebody asked, hey, John, do you think that maybe that now that it's getting these post-credit things, do you think Endgame could maybe crawl past Avatar? And I said, I don't think so, but it is possible. But even if it does, you know Disney's going to do a re-release of the first Avatar to help promote Avatar 2 coming out. And then Disney will be able to say, once again, the all-time worldwide box office film and its highly anticipated sequel coming. They'll use that as their marketing thing. They absolutely will. So even if Endgame crawls past Avatar, you know at some point, Disney's going to do an Avatar re-release to help support the upcoming Avatar 2. Because it's been a decade since people have seen Avatar on the big screen. It's not like it's some new novel little thing. It's been a decade since people have been able to see it on the big screen. And so they'll just take back the record, even if Endgame passes it. So, and they're both Disney films, so Disney doesn't care. Disney wins either way. It's a big win for Disney, one way or the other. Let's see here. Javier Rios 405 writes, wait a second. Did I skip a question? Oh, I did skip a question. Whoo, okay. Suthius writes, not sure if you've been asked to predict Toy Story 4's box office opening for the weekend yet. Now that you've seen it last night, can't wait to see it. I'm going to guess 120 million. That's my guess. I could be way off. I haven't looked at the tracking numbers, so I'm not sure. My guess, though, is going to be 120 million, and it certainly deserves that or more because the movie is bloody fantastic. Now we get on to Javier Rios, who writes, maybe Norman Osborn buys the Avengers Tower? That's one of my guesses. Have no idea, but that is one of my guesses. Jonathan Teft writes, one of two. My favorite depiction of Spider-Man is the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon series. Have you seen it? I have not. They nailed both Spider-Man part and the Peter Parker part. They took time to build up each and every character, and I love how they blended both the Sinister Six and the Venom suit stories together. Sadly, it only had 2 seasons and ended on a cliffhanger, but those 2 seasons were glorious. You know, I'm full admission, Jonathan, I'm the wrong guy to ask about this stuff because I do not like the vast majority of Marvel and DC animated stuff. There are exceptions. Marvel's Doctor Strange animated movie, I liked very much. The Dark Knight Returns, I liked very, very much. Under the Red Hood, I liked very much. But for the most part, including Young Justice, everybody goes crazy over Young Justice. I tried watching that. I thought it was terrible. But a lot of people love it, and that's great. So I'm not going to sit here and poo-poo on it. I didn't like it. It doesn't work for me. I've watched some of the Marvel animated stuff. I don't like it. It does not work for me. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't love it, or that lots of other people that shouldn't. That doesn't mean that other people shouldn't love Young Justice or Spectacular Spider-Man or what have you. I just admittedly got to say I'm the wrong guy to ask. Because I don't like most of that stuff. I think, yeah. Anyway, that's just my opinion on it, but I'm just one guy. But it's out there, and I guarantee you, Jonathan, you're not alone. I guarantee you right now, I'm reading these questions, these statements you're putting in, and there are hundreds, if not thousands of people watching this going, F yeah, Spectacular Spider-Man. And that's the great thing about our fandom, man. We all love our different things, and I'm not one of them that loves that particular one, but you do, and a lot of other people do too, so I'm glad you enjoyed it, man, on that level. All right, The Hero writes, hey guys, do you think with the attention and success of John Wick 3, action sequels are being looked at closer? Which movie would you give another shot? Personally, it's Crank 3 or Hot Fuzz 2. Well, I love the Crank series. I gotta admit, Hot Fuzz is my least favorite. I like Hot Fuzz, but it's my least favorite of the Peg, Frost, Wright, movies. It's my least favorite of them. Crank, I love. I even love Crank 2. It's so ridiculous and over the top and crazy. And I'll tell you what. Now, granted, I loved Crank before I met Mark and Brian. Before I met Mark Neveldine and Brian Taylor, the creators of Crank and the directors of Crank. Before I met those guys, I became a big fan of Crank. Now, they are now friends of mine. They're two of the guys, those two in Milo Ventimiglia are the ones who basically, they're responsible for me meeting my wife, for me meeting Anne. So I'm a little biased, granted. But I'll tell you what, they want to make a Crank 3. I know one of the two guys, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. I know one of the two guys between Mark and Brian wants to remake it. Not remake it, but do a third one. I know the studio wants to do a third one. I was actually sitting at breakfast with one of the guys at Comic-Con one year when they got a text from Jason Statham going, Crank 3! Like all that. So I know Statham wants to do it. I know the studio wants to do it. I know at least one of the guys wants to do it. I want one badly. I want a Crank 3 badly. I would love to see it. These are great guys. I love the totally bonkers, off-the-wall ridiculousness of the Crank franchise. I would love to see another one. I don't know if they're ever actually going to do it, but oh my God, I would love to see it. I would love to see it. Still, my absolute favorite stuff watching Jason Statham in is Crank. So I would be so down for that. Anyway, Pablo Diablo writes, does Carl Weathers get paid from having his image all over Creed 1 and 2? If so, how about Kevin Bacon when his name is mentioned in Guardians and Infinity War? My house loves Man of Steel and Campea. Oh, thank you so much, Pablo Diablo. I really don't know. I really don't know. It all depends on, look, there is fair use. Dropping somebody's name, you don't have to pay somebody for dropping their name. That's kind of fair use. As a public, you're a public figure, like you can say a name of somebody. So I doubt Kevin Bacon gets any money when his name is mentioned in Guardians of the Galaxy. So I highly doubt that. Having your image used is a little bit different. So it all depends on the nature of the contract Carl Weathers had with him. Because if they can use any image of him that they already paid him for previous movies, and they have the rights to that footage, then they might be able to. But again, it all comes down to the individual deals and individual contracts. So my guess is going to be that Carl Weathers doesn't make any money for them reusing footage and imagery that they already paid him for and they own the rights to. But it's possible that they did. I just don't know for sure off the top of my head. But I really doubt Kevin Bacon got paid anything just because his name is mentioned. So I doubt that. All right. Jonathan Teft writes, please don't be turned off by the animation in Spectacular Spider-Man. It could take a couple of episodes to get used to. Again, Jonathan, I know I'm not a Marvel or DC animation guy. I've got too many other things I got to watch. I'm honestly probably not even going to give it a chance. Because I got too many other things that it looks like I will like that I need to give a chance to. So I'm just being honest with you. I probably won't sit down and ever give it a chance. Tristan Brown writes, you convinced me to give the Paddington movies a try. I watched both with my family and now we are obsessed with that bear. Hopefully we get a part 3. I am telling you what, I cannot emphasize this enough. This is a treasure of a film franchise. Treasure. Paddington and Paddington 2 are 2 of the best movies I've seen in the last 5 years. They're great. And 2 is almost better than the first. Maybe it is better than the first. It's absolutely magical. I can't emphasize it enough. The Paddington movies are fantastic. And I know a lot of you have never given them a chance because it's a movie about a stuffed bear. Well, actually, it's a movie about a bear, not a stuffed bear. But it looks like it's a movie about a stuffed bear. It's a movie about a talking bear. How good can it be? Hey, I said the exact same thing. Going in to watch Paddington. It's a movie about a talking bear. How good can this be? I remember me and John Schnepp went to go watch it together, and we were both, it was a press screening, whatever, we'll go see it. This is going to be dumb. And we were like, oh my God, Paddington is amazing. It's so good. And Paddington 2 is even better. Guys, watch it. They're beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, fun, warm, just delightful movies that will make you smile and love movies. Dervunderbar writes, Brad Pitt and Matt Damon have cameos in Deadpool 2. I know Brad Pitt did. I didn't. Brad Pitt is well, I'm not going to say what he is. But yeah, Brad Pitt, I knew immediately. Matt Damon, I don't remember Matt Damon's. JB Bonifacio writes, I know people recommend shows all the time, but if you haven't watched Neo Genesis Evangelion on Netflix, it's arguably the best anime of all time. I've not seen that on Netflix. I know I used to watch a bunch of stuff like years ago, but if there's some new stuff, that is stuff that appeals to me, so I will probably check that out at some point, JB. Thank you for the recommendation. Iggy's Horrible writes, I got that Mysterio pop from Far From Home. It's A+. Oh, the pop figure. I thought you were talking about Hot Toys for a second. It's like, wait a minute, it's not even out yet. Well, clearly I like my pop figures. But I'm not going to rush out and buy a Mysterio one until I see the movie. And then after I see the movie, I'll probably run out and buy 20 of them. But thanks for the recommendation, Iggy. Love the pops. Enrique Carceres writes, Midsummer, best horror movie this year? I haven't seen it yet. I'm hearing mixed things. I'm hearing some people, it's kind of like Witch. I'm hearing some people saying it's brilliant, and I'm hearing some people say it's a total waste. So I don't know. I haven't seen it yet myself. So have to wait and see. Rodrigo Ortiz writes, what do you think happened with Magneto at the concentration camp after Nazis knew about his powers? Was he feared, left alone? I've always wondered. Well, clearly he was kept, speaking of Kevin Bacon, he was kept under control by Kevin Bacon on some level. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, Rodrigo, and guess it's a little bit of all that. There was a little bit of control, but there was also a little bit of fear, a little bit of staying away from him, probably an amazement and a wonder. But remember, they had a boss there who knew what was going on and had powers of his own. So I don't know. It's a good question. I'd be curious to know. I wouldn't be curious to see another movie to cover that period of time, but I'd be curious if somebody at Fox, like whether it's a Bryan Singer directed the movie or Simon Kinberg, who were producers of all the movie, came out and say, well, actually, during those years, here's what it was. I'd be curious to know that, Rodrigo, too. All right. Terry Gando just sends a super chat. Thank you so much, Terry. Esteval Garcia writes, saying there's a twist is actually a spoiler. Absolutely not. 100% no. No. I've heard people say that before. Saying there's a twist in a movie is a spoiler. No, it's not. That's like saying there's dialogue in this movie is a spoiler. Every movie, to one degree or another, has a twist. A twist is when something comes that the audience, that changes the direction and perception of the narrative at hand that you didn't see coming. That is in every story. You want to know what a movie without a twist is? Justin Timberlake, I'm just pulling the name of a celebrity out of my ass. Justin Timberlake is sitting down, typing a long, thoughtful email for an hour and a half. A movie without a twist, without something that comes along and alters the direction and the path of the audience's perception of the story, or the audience and the path of the protagonist of the story, is Justin Timberlake sitting at a computer typing out a long, thoughtful email for 90 minutes. That's what it is without a twist. Every single movie has a twist. Something that happens in it that alters our perception and the protagonist's perception of their world and new challenges in front of them and things they must do. Whether it's that recent one that's the reverse of Big, you know, the one with, I think Regina Hall is a star in, I can't remember, Little? Yeah, Little. Okay, blah, 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 powerful woman doing her job, blah, wakes up and all of a sudden she's in the body of a child. That's a twist. That's a twist. That's the thing that comes along and happens and changes the reality of what's going on. You know? Every movie has that. To say a movie has a twist, and I'm not just coming down on you, Esteval, by the way. Fair thing to say. That I've had this conversation with so many people. To say a movie has a twist is a spoiler, is to say a movie that has dialogue. Saying that movie has dialogue in it, that's a spoiler. But every movie other than silent era movies, every movie has dialogue. It's not a twist to tell me there's a dialogue. Saying that movie has a main character, that's a spoiler. No, it isn't. Every movie has sometimes several, main character. This movie has a beginning, middle, and end. What? That's a spoiler. I didn't know this movie had an end. Every movie, every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And every movie has a twist. Some are big, some are small, some are shocking, some we saw coming. But every movie has that fundamental shift or twist in direction to it that gives us our story, right? So I disagree, Esteval, respectfully, my film loving brother, I respectfully disagree that saying there's a twist is a spoiler. Because we can sit down here right now and go through 40 movies and they all have twists. So I disagree with that. I disagree with that. And by the way, saying there's a twist in the movie doesn't mean there's an M. Night Shyamalan level thing that happens to it. The twist is a lot of different things. So I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Anyway, Suthius writes, where are we at here? Suthius writes, with all seriousness, please consider going on vacation with Mrs. Campea to Hawaii or something. You deserve it. Life is short and you live only once. It's true. Actually, Ann and I, we're planning on taking a trip back home. We're going to take a trip back home in August. And we're going to mix a couple of things because is it SummerSlam? It's some big WWE pay-per-view is happening in Toronto in August. I can't remember if it's SummerSlam or another one, whatever. And there's a big NXT event as well. So me and Ann, and we think Kaori and our friend Ryan, we're all going to go visit my family. And I'm not going to go to the WWE stuff, but Ann and Kaori are. And I'm going to go spend time with my family, visit a couple of friends. My dad just bought a new cottage right on the lake, so I'm probably going to go visit that cottage, and we're going to take some days away. And I think I'll probably have Fact Checker Jonathan and Robert Meyer Burnett run the John Campea Show while I'm gone. So I am going to take a break and a little bit of vacation in August. So thank you for that, Suthius. I appreciate your concern. Holland Love writes, I think that Chucky is Earth 2 version of Forky. What do you think, Forky? I am Chucky. Okay, there we go. That was terrible. That's funny. Luis Aldaz just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Luis. I appreciate that, man. Jonathan Teft writes, 1 of 2. I enjoyed Toy Story 4 quite a bit, but it's definitely my least favorite of the series. My big problem is that apart from Woody, I wish the original toys had more to do. I also wasn't a big fan of how they used Buzz, but the animation is amazing, the humor is funny, and the deeper layers of what the purpose of a toy is written really well. I agree with all that. The only difference between you and me on this, Jonathan, is that let's face it, the other toys, whether it's Rex or Slink or Potato Head or whatever, they have always been very much secondary characters and used quite little. More in the first Toy Story, but ever since the first Toy Story, their roles have become less and less. And this movie, yeah, definitely Buzz is no longer one of the main characters. Buzz is now a secondary character in this particular movie. And that's true. But that was necessary for the story that they're telling. The smaller roles for the original toys, and they're still there, but the smaller role for the original toys, including Buzz, once you see the movie, you'll see that was necessary for them to tell the story that they were wanting to tell. And if that's the price tag that they required to tell that story, then I'm totally good with it. So I agree with you, but I disagree on what the results of that were, because I don't think it's my least favorite of the series. It's also not my absolute favorite. Toy Story 3 is still my favorite, but I got a feeling right now, and again, I hesitate to say this because I want to give it a few days to simmer. I think I might end up on thinking that Toy Story 4 is my second favorite Toy Story. And when you consider how bloody brilliant the first one and the second ones are, that's saying a lot. But anyway, that's just me. But thanks for sharing your experience with it, Jonathan. I appreciate that. All right, Der Wunderbar writes, I hope Black Manta gets more screen time in an Aquaman sequel. I don't know if we're going to see him in an Aquaman sequel or if we might see him used in other places in the DCU. We heard the producer once talked about that. Jonathan Joyner writes, hey, John. This is a 1 of 2. My quote about heroes and villains was from the car scene in Moscow in the last episode of Chernobyl. Oh, I don't even remember what your original quote was. And then he follows up with, and by the way, it's a really super generous super chat. Thank you, Jonathan. Also, just saw the trailer for Netflix, Point Blank. I'm really feeling this one. I think Netflix got some aces up their sleeves. If this is the material, if good, we are looking forward to the future. I have no idea what Point Blank is. Or do I? Let me look this up quick. What is Point Blank? Point Blank, Netflix. What is it? Oh, yes. Yes, this one. Okay. Frank Grillo, Anthony Mackie, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I haven't seen the trailer for this yet. I guess it just dropped yesterday. I have not seen the trailer for this yet. So, okay. Here's my thing, though. Lots of trailers for Netflix movies have always looked good. And most of the time end up being total crap. So, I'm not going to get excited. Now, I'll watch the trailer, and if the trailer looks great to me, I'll give the movie a chance. But I'll be honest with you, Jonathan, it ain't going to affect my expectation level, because my expectation level is, other than Always Be My Maybe, that Netflix original films are total crap. Some of them less so than others. Birdcage is pretty good. But for every Birdcage, there's like 15 or 20 other Netflix original movies that suck. That just suck. For every Always Be My Maybe, which I think is the best Netflix original movie ever, is Always Be My Maybe. I love, if you guys still haven't seen that, check it out. It's really fun. So I'm going to watch this trailer. And if the trailer appeals to me, I will watch the movie and I will give it a shot. But I'm just saying, even if the trailer is the best trailer I've ever seen, it ain't going to affect my expectation level. Because I have just been burned by Netflix. Throw whatever crap up we want just so we put up more content and call it a Netflix original movie. I've been burned by it too many times. I don't know how Netflix can do their series so well and their original movies so badly. I mean, I don't know. Again, there are a few very rare exceptions, but there's way more crap out there than gold nuggets. So, but we'll see. We'll see how that all turns out. I will keep my eyes open that. Thanks for putting that back on my radar, Jonathan. I really appreciate that, dude. All right. Let's see. Where are we at right now? We're at Chris Lissenfeld, who writes, John, looking extra filthy today. Well, thank you so much. I think that's a good thing. I am sexy. Forky said I'm good looking, so you know it's true. Ryan Lohner writes, finished Lucifer season 3. Nice. I'm just not into what they tried to do here, but I appreciate them trying new things. Luckily, the last few episodes are incredibly strong and raised my hopes again. Again, Ryan, you know, it feels like every day you're writing in about how you don't like Lucifer as much as me, which is fine. I love this series, but it's not going to be for everybody. I mean, no matter what, Toy Story 4 isn't going to be for everybody. Avengers Endgame isn't going to be for everybody, you know? And, you know, you're watching Lucifer and you seem to appreciate it to a certain degree, but not nearly as much as me. And that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. That's great. I thought Lucifer season 3 was outstanding. I thought it was fantastic. And I agree. I think the way it ended was super strong and really good. And I just, God, if you're not watching Lucifer, guys, you got to watch Lucifer. All right. Bobby Hutchinson writes, love your show, John. Watch it every day. Thank you so much, Bobby. Appreciate that, man. Finally turning 21 today. Very excited. Any good memories from your early 20s, movie-wise or other? Oh, my God. Dude, come on. Come on, Bobby. That's something we could sit here for 4 hours and talk about, right? I have plenty of great memories from turning 20, particularly 20. 20 more than 21. Because I know in the United States, 21 is the age you can drink at now, but in Canada, it's 19, so it's no big deal. We were already past that in Canada. But 20 was a more significant birthday to me, because I remember I was really bummed out, because turning 20 meant I wasn't a teenager anymore. A reality I think I probably still haven't grasped. But when I turned 20, it meant I wasn't a teenager anymore. And it was like, well, that's rather depressing. So anyway, but as far as I don't remember, I'm not a movie dates guy, unlike like Robert Meyer Burnett or Scott Mance is. I'm not a movie dates guy, so I couldn't tell you what movies were out when I turned 20 or when I turned 21 or anything like that. But it is, particularly in the US, a very significant birthday. Congrats. Have a happy birthday. I hope you have a fabulous year ahead of you. I hope you have a tremendous day filled with friends, family, doing things that you like and enjoy and that make you relaxed or having a great time. You have a great one, Bobby. And thanks for sharing that, dude. And happy birthday one more time. All right. Next up, the Nerdy Hatter writes, so many people questioned what Spidey was web-slinging on in the final Endgame battle that they finally, quote-unquote, confirmed that he's swinging on the Ravager and Chitauri ships flying overhead. Yeah, that's a little bit of a desperate reach. But come on, give Endgame a little bit of a break on that. Because forever, going back to the original Spider-Man cartoon days, the question of what the hell is Spidey's web attaching to and connecting to? That's been a question for a long time. Like we've seen Spider-Man on top of the tallest building in the city and jump off in web sling, and it's like, wait a minute, what is that web connecting to? And there are a number of parts like that in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I love. But if you watch that movie, there are a number of scenes there where it's like, wait a minute, what? They just shot a web up. What on earth did that web just connect to? There's nothing above them there. They're not beside another tall building. But that has almost become as classic as Superman. I'm Superman. I'm Clark Kent. I'm Superman. Oh my God, where did Superman go, Clark? You know, the Spider-Man shooting webs into an empty sky and somehow magically swinging on something is as classic as Superman with the glasses. Nobody can recognize him when he's got the glasses on, right? So, yes, that became obvious in Endgame, but that's a classic Spider-Man thing. It's a classic Spider-Man thing. It's one of those things we just go, we accept it. Whether it's a Spider-Man cartoon or an animated movie or a live action movie, we just accept it. So because it goes all the way back to the 60s, them doing that, even into the comic books. I remember reading some comics. Says, wait a minute, he's shooting. What's that connecting to? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Good observation, Nerdy Hatter. All right, next up, Steve Alexander, who sends in a really large super chat. Thank you so much for that, Steve. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level, dude. John, so glad I met you last night. Oh, did we bump into it? Were you one of the guys that I met at the theater last night? It's always fun when I go to the theater. Usually bump into people who watch the show. It's always great, and I had a great chance to meet a few people last night. So, great. John, so glad I met you last night. Been following you since 2013, Man of Steel. Awesome. I was starstruck when we met. Thank you for everything you've done. I love your show. P.S. You're a lot taller than I thought. Well, that's because normally I'm just sitting down here. Normally I'm just sitting down. A lot of people make fun of me sometimes, Steve. Like when the odd picture of me pops up online where they can see my legs, or like people always make fun. Wait a minute, Campea has legs? So yeah, you very rarely see me standing up. Well, first of all, Steve, and to everybody who comes up to me at events or sees me in places and come up and say hi, thank you so much. You make me feel, you have no idea how special you make me feel. You make me feel like $1 million. I'm an effing nobody from Canada who started a weblog in a basement. That's who I am. To this day, I'm still an effing nobody. I just happen to do a YouTube channel. I'm a film fan like everybody else. I'm just a film fan, effing nobody. That's who I am. And so for me, who is a film fan and an effing nobody, when I go out on the street, or I'm at an event, or I'm at Star Wars Celebration, or I'm at Comic-Con, or I'm at a movie theater, or I'm in a restaurant, or I'm in a mall, or whatever, and you guys come up to me and say hi and say that you like the show, you guys have no idea. I am the one, like you're saying you were starstruck. Okay, that's weird to me. But you don't have any idea that I'm the one who got more out of that. I got way more out of that because you made me feel like $1 million. You do. Every time you guys do. Every time you guys recognize me somewhere and you come up and say hi, you have no idea how ridiculously special that makes me feel. And humbled and overwhelmed. And it's awesome. You make this Canadian kid feel like $1 million. And you're one of the guys last night, Steve, who did that. You made me feel like $1 million. So no, sir, thank you. Thank you for making this just fellow film fan who's sitting in his place with a camera on YouTube, making me feel like $1 million. Thank you. Because I really appreciate it, and it really makes my day every time it happens. So thank you to all you guys for that. And I hope you enjoyed the movie last night, Steve. Hope you enjoyed the movie. All right, thanks again for that, dude. All right, Jay Meister 25 writes, Spider-Man Homecoming set the bar very high for me. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I was expecting good from Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming's great. That's a delightful movie. Love that movie. I mean, it's not Spider-Man 2 good, in my opinion. It's not Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse good, but it's wonderful to me. Just love it. Let's see where Far From Home, if it actually lives up to all the hype it's been getting now. Blue Rock writes, score one for 2D animation in China. Re-release of Ghibli's Spirited Away earned $4.7 million as of 2 p.m. $1.5 million for Toy Story 4. Hollywood Reporter. Well, yeah, it's a totally different market. China's a different market. And, we talked about this on the show the other day. Whereas in Hollywood and in America, 2D animation has pretty much just become a small niche thing. 2D animation is still very much a major player around the rest of the world. Around the rest of the world, it's still very much a big major player, particularly in Asian countries. So you're right, score one for them, but also no surprise. Also no surprise there, Blue Rock, but it's a good observation, man. All right, Nat Zegri writes, other than Star Wars, favorite John Williams theme? Ooh, you cannot help but I'll tell you what. Indiana Jones is great. Bum, 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 bum. I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan in the world, but his Harry Potter music is fantastic. Every time I'm at a John Williams concert, one of the biggest pops is when the orchestra is silent because he's just finished one piece. The orchestra is silent, and then all of a sudden you just hear this one horn start going, bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum, bum. The audience, every time, the first couple of bars are bum, 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 bum. The audience loses their minds. Absolutely loses their minds. The Imperial March is my all-time favorite piece of John Williams music. It's my all-time favorite piece of movie music in general. But I'll tell you what, that Superman theme, whenever I'm at a John Williams concert, bum, 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 it's just people go crazy. That said, I think my second favorite piece of John Williams music, other than the Imperial March, isn't the Superman theme, although that ranks right up there. And I'm going to say one that not a lot of people would say. His Jurassic Park music. Ba, 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 ba. It's filled with... The music he wrote for Jurassic Park is filled with the wonder and astonishment that the characters within the movie feel. And the music to Jurassic Park has always just stuck with me. It's amazing. I love it. I think that's my second favorite piece. All right. Michael Effens Sotelo just sends in a couple super chats. Thank you, Michael. Austin Church writes, are we ever getting a National Treasure 3? You know, the producers keep saying they want to do it. They want to do it. And Disney might be interested. They keep saying that, but I think that every year that passes, the less and less likely it becomes. At this point, I think it's more likely that we're going to get a reboot at some point. Roman Bryant writes, my friends took me to see Chucky. Do you meant to say for my? Probably you meant for my. My friends took me to see Chucky for my birthday. Wigs us tomorrow. Oh, which is tomorrow. And I actually liked it a lot. Hey, look, again, it's one of those movies to me, like I said before. There are movies you watch and like, but you go, but I could see why there would be people who don't like it. Chucky to me is a really awful movie, but it's got some really big laughs in it. And it's the movie to me that is the opposite. So I go, it's a movie to me that's terrible, but I can see why people would like it. Like, you know, it's one of those. And I think there are a number of people who are going to really have a good time. Again, because there's such good laughs in it. There are some really, really, not enough of them for me, but some top-notch laughs in the film. Enough that I think a number of you guys are going to enjoy it if you watch. Even though overall I didn't, I think a number of you guys will. And happy birthday, happy pre-birthday, Roman, by the way. I hope you have a good one, my friend. All right, Ben Rayner writes, fourth theory, airport scene, pan to someone says, fourth theory, I'm guessing you mean airport scene, pan to someone says, glad to be back home. It's Tom Hardy as Eddie, and I don't think that's going to happen, but mind-blowing. Fourth theory airport scene? I don't know if you're talking about in a Spider-Man movie that maybe Tom Hardy gets off the plane. Okay, if that's what you're saying, Ben, that you've got a theory that in Spider-Man 4, a post-credit scene is an airport showing Tom Hardy as Brock getting off the plane and saying, good to be home, that would qualify. That we were hearing it's some mind-blowing, shocking, twisty things. I mean, hey, to support it, Kevin Feige, playing a little cat and mouse, we talked about on the show the other day, said that he thinks a Venom and Spider-Man crossover, it's up to Sony, but he believes at some point it is likely. That would fall under that category, Ben. That's not a bad theory. That's not a bad theory, dude. All right, Stubble McShave writes, Spidey post-credit scene introducing Victor Von Doom. I think that's highly unlikely. I think it's been very clear that we're not going to see any Fantastic Four or X-Men related stuff for a while. So anything is possible, but I think that one's very unlikely. Logan Blinn writes, over under 25% that Far From Home actually means him going into the multiverse at some point would be quite a good twist if well done. I'm going to take under 25% on that. I'm not saying it's under 25% that he goes into the multiverse, although I don't think that's very likely either. But I think they've made it very clear. Spider-Man Homecoming with posters of him with travel badges and all that kind of stuff. I think it's pretty clear that that's the meaning of it. So not impossible, Logan. but I think 25% is a little bit high, so I'll go ahead and take the under on that 25%. Iggy is Horrible writes, as a huge horror fan, I enjoyed the movie and felt emotional connection to Andy and Chucky. Buddy's song has been stuck in my it's stuck on my mind. I downloaded the score with Medicine Man. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you had fun with it. Again, I had some very good laughs in it. There are definite big moments of entertainment in Child's Play. For me, though, the overall awfulness of so many other elements of the film just outweighed the good for me, unfortunately. But again, because of the entertainment elements in there, I could totally understand why you had a good time and why you enjoyed it, and I'm glad that you did, man. I'm glad you had a good time at it. Mats of Jada writes, will you talk Toy Story 4 spoilers before September extended universe release? I don't know what that means. But anyway, we are going to do a Toy Story 4 spoiler discussion this Sunday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. For those of you who watch the movie this weekend, 3 p.m. Sunday is when we're going to do our open spoiler discussion. Robert Perez writes, have a great weekend, everyone. Stay filthy. Thank you so much, Rob, and I hope you have a filthy weekend as well. Stubble McShave writes, if Avatar films are great, Avengers 5 could break box office record. I really don't see how one has anything to do with the other, Stubble. Doshi writes, oh, sorry, had a big jump. Where are we at here? There we go. Doshi writes, my ultimate crossover of Jurassic Park, Mad Max, and Fast and the Furious called Jurassically Mad and Furious will pass Avatar or Titanic 2, Revenge of the Iceberg. There's a crossover. Hey, don't laugh. There were so many people putting out these mashup little things of, because remember, there was one point of talking about Fast and Furious, the dinosaurs, and it became a popular fan thing to talk about. And there was a lot of things going around. So you wouldn't be the first one to think about that, Dashi. Jurassic Park, Mad Max, and Fast and Furious. I'd be more curious about the Mad Max and Fast and Furious crossover. Dom and the family get time traveled into a post-apocalyptic future where now they've got to save the family. Living in the Mad Max era, that could be interesting. All right. Santez Henderson writes, John, you need a vacation. We are all in agreement. Yeah, I do need a vacation, but I got one coming. I'm going to take a break in August. I'm going to go home and visit home in August. Brett Brooks writes, respect for what you do. Do you take any time off? Very rarely. I just don't have time. I mean, we got John Campea Show 5 days a week. We got open mic on the weekends. So very rarely do I have the opportunity to take time off. But like I said, in August, I'm going to take like 4 or 5 days. I'm going to take 4 or 5 days off in August. And then, well, even when I go home for Christmas, I still do the show from over Christmas, but I do take some days off over the Christmas break. So I'm going to take 4 or 5 days off in August, and then I'm going to take a little bit of time off over Christmas. So that's the thing. Brian writes, I'm a huge Whedon fan. Me too. Buffy is my favorite series. Have you seen it? I have seen it. I feel like since Justice League, people have given him a bad name, but Buffy, Angel, Firefly are great. I mean, yeah, and don't forget, I think Joss Whedon probably improved what we were going to get. I like Justice League. Both the parts that I could tell had Zack Snyder's DNA on it, and the parts that I could tell had Joss Whedon's DNA on it. But remember, Joss Whedon, it's not like he was in control of that movie from day one and did all the pre-production, laid out the script, all that kind of stuff. He kind of came in and was brought in last second to do what he could. So I wouldn't put any of the blame on Joss Whedon at all, personally. That said, Avengers, Age of Ultron, Firefly, Serenity, Angel, I mean, on and on. The dude just makes great stuff. Much Ado About Nothing. Yeah, I think it was Much Ado About Nothing. Anyway, I love his films. Just love his films, his television, all that kind of stuff. The dude is an absolute genius to me. Buffy is probably the lead. I actually prefer Angel. I'm one of these guys that prefers Angel over Buffy, but that's just me. But yeah, I have seen the Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I loved Angel. Scott Bristow writes, I feel your pain, John. I have had to explain the Avengers expansion at least a dozen times. I know, but it's important, again, not to take anything away from it. I just want to make sure that people are going to be spending their money knowing what they are and what they aren't getting. Because I just know there's going to be people that buy tickets and come out complaining, going, They didn't add anything into the movie. They didn't add anything into the movie, even though even though Kevin Feige clearly said they didn't add anything. I just know there's going to be a lot of upset people who are going to be coming out of that complaining that it was still the exact same movie. And I just want people to know that it's the same movie. They're just adding some things in after the credits. And as long as you go in understanding that, you're going to have a good time. I'm just worried about people not understanding that and coming out pissed off. And I just want to make sure we avoid that. All right. Eat it or beat it. I like the name. Writes, hey, John, longtime fan. Thank you so much. Just wanted to support the show. Keep up the great work. Oh, thank you so much, Eat It or Beat It. I really appreciate that. And thank you for the really generous super chat, dude. And thank you for supporting the show on that level and for being here and being a part of the community and commenting at all. Thank you so much. It's always nice when somebody just wants to send in something just to say something nice. So thank you, dude. I really, really appreciate that. I hope you have a great day. All right, guys, listen. We are now over 2 hours. So what I'm just going to do now is I'm just going to skim over the remaining super chats, and I just want to make sure for people who sent in like large ones, like $10 or more, I want to make sure those get answered here in the show. But for all the other super chats that have been sent in, Ricky Rodriguez, Lone Wolf X6, everybody else, don't worry. I got a companion video I'm going to be making a little bit later. All your questions are getting answered in a video today. So keep your eyes open for that. All right, so let's just go searching here to see if there's any more that need to get answered right now. We get AG Systems 120 who writes, movies are subjective, but National Review rating is suspicious. All recent 90 plus Rotten Tomatoes were rotten. Toy Story 4, Endgame, US, Roma, Spider-Verse, The Favorite, Widow, MI Fallout, Black Klansman. Why? Well, okay, that's because we talked about this a little bit before. There is a guy who's infamous in movie review circles. He shouldn't be allowed to review movies because he clearly does it on purpose. I don't care that somebody has completely different movie taste from me. That's totally fine. All movies are subjective. But there's a guy who for a decade or more has been infamously known to just does it on purpose. And his name is Armand White. I've never met Armand White. I don't know him. For all I know, he's the greatest guy in the world. So I'm not saying anything negative about him as a person. Just be clear. For all I know, he's a fabulous, wonderful human being. But when it comes to his movie reviews, it became obvious a decade ago he just does it on purpose to be extremely contrarian because it's every single time. Every popular movie amongst critics, he hates. Every movie that critics hate, he loves. It's like clockwork. It's clockwork. Armand White now works for the National Review. And there's one other critic there as well who has kind of followed up on this contrarian sort of thing. Now, again, I'm not going to say anything definitive because I don't know anything definitive. All I can say is by my rationale, when I look at it, clearly it's purposely being contrarian. So, I mean, it is kind of what it is. So I don't know what we can do about that. All right, guys. We're all out of time. That'll do it for this installment of the John Campea Show. And again, everybody from Ricky Rodriguez, Lone Wolf, Keith Gilmore, Dashi, Brett Brooks, Josie C, all the way down. Do not worry, guys. I'm going to do a companion video a little bit later today, and we will get to all of those questions that you guys sent in. So that will do it, guys, for today's installment, for the final Friday installment, the final installment this week of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you for supporting the show and being a film fan community that we can all just play around in a sandbox like. Thank you for being a home for movie fandom for all of us. And thank you guys who had sent in chats, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel along the way. Myself, Jonathan, Ray, Robert Meyer Burnett, we all thank you for that. All right, guys, that'll do it for me for now. Don't forget, once again, companion video later today, open mic tomorrow on Saturday and on Sunday afternoon, we've got our Toy Story open spoiler discussion, and then the John Campea Show will return again on Monday. Thanks again for everything, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.